Cheers. Good morning.
Cheers.
Morning. Welcome to this edition of Road Trippin' with RJ and Channing. Richard Jefferson, Channing Fry. I'm Allie Clifton. Guys, the NBA Finals, they have arrived. They're here. We know who the two teams are. Here we go. It starts this week, tomorrow, as this is dropping on Wednesday. Having said all of that, before we dive into the NBA Finals, there's some other hot topics that Channing, and you can weigh in on this, obviously, that our guy Rich would like to address. And it is about the NBA and a conversation, and I'm going to set it up so everyone is well aware in case you've been living under a rock. It's okay. I lived under a rock for half my life. There has been a recent discussion between Draymond Green and Rasheed Wallace that has gone back and forth that Rich decided to chime in on. Draymond saying we would have smacked y'all. Y'all was scoring 72 points per game. It would be the 2017 Warriors versus the 04 Pistons. And I'm going to kind of give you a little insight to remind you of who their starters were. 2017 Warriors, Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond, and Zaza Pachulia. Okay. The 04 Pistons, Chauncey, Rip, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. Okay. Well, you go into the comment section and Rich decides to say, I played against both during their playoff runs. Warriors win in a gentleman's sweep.
Oh,
Channing. Rip says to Richard, yeah, right. And then says it would definitely be a very tough series, but I'm going with us, the Pistons, in 6 games. Hashtag best 5 alive.
okay. That's a little ridiculous, but
Would you like to weigh in before Rich dives in give your initial take?
I wasn't there in 04. I went to the league in 05 and I caught the 05 Pistons. And I think they are the most under talked about championship team almost ever. And to put Rasheed Wallace was like a huge inspiration that nobody talks about as a shooting big. Mm-hmm. So to say, okay, let's take Rasheed Wallace in today's game and go, hey, Sheed, you can step out and shoot these. And then on switches, you're going to post up in that Dirk thing where he shoots above his head. Rasheed was doing that before Dirk, right? So that's just that. Chauncey was a problem. was a problem. And you talk about big guards. He was a big guard that could shoot the three, wasn't afraid of the moment, could control the pace of a game, and definitely defended his ass off. Tayshaun, to me, would do a above average job of guarding Klay Thompson. Or even if you wanted to put him on Steph for a moment or two, would do a above average job on that. Now, where I think the big win is, now let's say you say Steph, let's say you say Steph wins his matchup. Klay and Tayshaun, they go even and even. Draymond and Rasheed, I'm taking Sheed. No offense to Draymond.
Especially offensively. Especially. I think defensively, similar. Yeah. Defensively, similar.
The big what if is Ben Wallace. Now, if y'all think on any court ever imaginable, you're going to have Zaza Pachulia and Ben Wallace on the same court, you're going to have to play Draymond at the 5. You're going to have to play Draymond, Andre, Klay, somebody.
No.
Who am I missing?
You got your years wrong, player. They're not talking about like the 14, 15, 16. You're missing Kevin Durant.
Oh, the 17.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, you said Zaza.
17 team.
He was on the 17 team. He was on the 17 team.
Was he? I don't remember. Oh, I was that. Okay, now never mind. That discussion, never mind. I digress.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I was waiting for you to say the horse. Anyways.
Yeah.
This message is for Rip Hamilton and Rip Hamilton only. There is no disrespect to either. You guys are
Rip is fine, man.
No, Rip's the man.
Rip's great, man.
Richard Hamilton. I got nothing but respect for Rip, right? We battled against each other multiple years in the postseason. It was always respectful. This is my issue. To your point, Chauncey and Steph, right? Both of them have finals MVPs. I think obviously Steph was a better regular season player, the MVPs and stuff. Okay, Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. Now we go to the next position, right? The next position is Klay Thompson versus Tayshaun Prince. With all due respect, love Tayshaun on my team in Nike camp. You're talking about an all-star level caliber, all defensive player, but Klay Thompson is a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Done. The next, when you get to Kevin Durant at the 3, that's where the problem comes. That's where the problem is for everyone. Right. And Detroit, they're a giant killer. They took down the Lakers. They took down GP and Shaq, and Karl Malone was banged up, but they took out that team. So you can't just say because you have stars. But that team with their depth, because you're talking about Andre Iguodala, you're talking about Livingston. That team was a matchup problem. You're right. They would have gone 5. They would have gone small. It would have been, in my opinion, it would have been Draymond versus Ben Wallace, Kevin Durant versus Rasheed Wallace. And I think Rasheed, if you do a hybrid of the rules, Rasheed would have been putting up 9 threes a night. Rasheed,
easy.
That would have been what he did. But ultimately, I don't think that they could have scored at the pace. And I'm doing a hybrid of the rules. I'm upping what Rasheed would shoot. Tayshaun, that just wasn't his game. Tayshaun wasn't to score. That was not his thing. He was a high-level defensive player, gives you between 10 and 15 points a night.
Rip versus Klay is a problem. The Rip versus K is a lot of guys running around.
Yeah, and I think those guys could cancel each other out on the defensive end. When you're talking about Rip chasing around Klay chasing around Rip, I respect for their defense 100%. But that 17 team that was, in my opinion, the second best team that I ever saw, minus the 0-1 Lakers with Shaq, and they were rolling. They won 3 in a row. The next best team I ever saw was the 17 team. The best team I was ever on was 16. The most talented team I was ever on was our 17 team. And I'll say this with all respect to Rip and them. Our 17 team would have beat you. Our 16 team would have beat you. We were starting with LeBron James, best player in the world. We saw what he did to their team in their prime when he wasn't in his prime. So LeBron was going to be the best player on the court. Then you had Kyrie, and then we had the depth. So respect to 04 Pistons. Great champions, under talked about team, but against that 17 Warrior team, it would have been a gentleman's sweep.
I digress. Yeah. That's
Rasheed says we would have beat the shit out of them because for the simple fact that they couldn't match up with us at any position. Steph Curry, not a defender. He would have had to guard Rip Hamilton. Draymond Green, too little.
Too little for who? Too little for who? But Kevin Durant is not too little to guard Rasheed. Ben Wallace was a zero offensive threat. Offensive threat. He was a finisher, Hall of Famer, but he was more like in the Rudy Gobert, Dikembe Mutombo, like we are elite defensively. We will finish around the rim. With all due respect to the first ballot not first ballot, but the Hall of Famer in Ben Wallace. He wasn't an offensive threat.
Put
Draymond on him. Put Kevin Durant on Rasheed. I'm still giving that matchup to, now they would have posted his ass up, but I'm still giving that matchup to Kevin Durant. I'm still giving that matchup.
Yeah, but the post-ups, you know what they do on post-ups? They double team every post-up, and then they swing. So now Tayshaun has to shoot 15, 20 shots a game, which wasn't what they did. Also, Rip Hamilton running around, back in our day, we didn't switch. We showed and got back to the post. But
they're switching all of that.
They're switching all of that.
All of that.
So now Chauncey's up top, just like, okay, let me post up. Now you've waited. Okay, let's say the clock starts at 18. You post up, you do the Rip Hamilton power 2. That takes another 3-4 seconds. Now you're at 14, right? Then you post up. Let's say you post up Rasheed on Steph. That's an automatic double team, right? That's 2 seconds. Now you're at 10, 8, swing. Now you're at butter situation with Tayshaun in a corner. Now imagine doing that all game long with switch. Now we're in rotations. It's not the same. They'd have to run a whole different system, which they weren't as prevalent. I think they'd be fine. They'd win a game, but it's not the same as
and again, we're talking about the hybrid of the rules. Understand who Rip Hamilton was. Rich legend, but he was a mid-range monster. He didn't shoot a lot of threes. He would be the equivalent to Jimmy Butler. He would be the equivalent
to
DeRozan. Very hybrid. Like he was just it was automatic. 90% from the free throw line, 90% from the mid-range. He was unstoppable from the mid-range. But you have to outpace the Warriors from 3. So I just think that even in a 3-point era, I think Rip Hamilton was a mid-range guy. Even then, when he was going against Allen Iverson and Kerry Kittles and Ray Allen, he didn't shoot threes. He shot a semi-decent percentage. That just wasn't his game. So if we were translating that, you're like, well, Rip would have shot a lot of threes. It's like Rip Hamilton had the opportunity to shoot a lot of threes. He wasn't scorer.
That season, to your point, he averaged 18, but he attempted less than 1 3 a game.
He gave us 50
27%.
on 1 3. He gave us 50 on 1 3.
That was his game. That was his game. And it's not that he couldn't shoot, but it was like, same with DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan just doesn't shoot threes. That's his game in an era where everyone does. And that's not a knock. That's just the way he played. So even if he's getting switched out, getting to the mid-range, on the other side, they're switching it out with Andre Iguodala, with Livingston, with Klay Thompson, with Kevin Durant. So they're switching all of that stuff. And if Rasheed wants to post up, fine. Those are twos versus the Warriors coming back with 3 of the greatest three-point shooters we've ever seen. It's
also on a screen and roll, they used to show and get back or drop an ice. You can't do none of that. What are you doing? You have to trap, right? If let's say Rip Hamilton goes on KD, that's an automatic double. So now you're doubling KD for what? To rotate to Ben Wallace to Steph, or Ben Wallace or Sheed at the 3-point line to Klay or Steph or Andre Iguodala. And then now we're rotating. Even if you rotate to Andre or not Andre to Draymond, he's driving and throwing lobs. So that's the problem.
Let me say this, and this will end the conversation. The Detroit Pistons went to 2 finals, lost in 7 to the Spurs, and they won 1 championship. That 17 team was on their way to a dynasty. They were about to win 3 in a row, and then we lost an ACL and we lost an Achilles. They weren't able to recover. Injuries are a part of it. Like the Warriors won their first one in 15 with Kevin Love out and with Kyrie out. That's a part of it. But they were about to win 3 championships. So if you're asking me the team that was about to win 2 championships, maybe a third, I'm going to go with them over the team that won 1 championship and only went to the finals twice.
Okay, I'll give you that. Very notable point.
Good, fun conversation here. I would love to
Nothing but respect, guys. Nothing
further take on this as well.
We got to stop saying that, because obviously we do.
No, it is respect. This is respect. I'm clarifying I ain't talking shit about Sheed or Rip or Chauncey.
Hell no.
Hey, Sean. I would talk shit. They know me well enough. Like, I would talk shit if I was talking shit. But this is just a respectful conversation about people who I feel are the best of our basketball generation.
I honestly would love if they will watch film. Like, if they got 3 of them together and they watched the 17 Warriors and said, here's how we would have guarded this.
Man, everybody.
That's what I want to see.
Everybody look good with a remote control in their hand, bro. Every coach is like.
I understand, but I want to see what their thinking is. When they watch these actions, how would they have played it? Because how we played 05, 06, 04, 07 is nothing how it was played in 2011. Like, the eras changed so much.
But they did. Rasheed was better than, like, I would consider him like a Jaren Jackson Jr., a Bam Adebayo type, a guy that could move his feet as a big. He could guard on the perimeter. I don't think you'd want him guarding Steph, but to say
all game long.
Yeah, but not all game long. I'm saying him, Chauncey, Tayshaun, and Rip could switch across the board. They could. They're like, Rasheed was that versatile of a big to switch across the board. So defensively, I think they would have been good. They would have upped their 3-point shots, but they were just too much. We're talking about 4 first ballot Hall of Famers versus 2.
This is like just so interesting when you talk about eras, and obviously we all know the 3-ball and the different evolution there, Channing. But as you mentioned it, Chauncey put up the most threes in 2004. How many do you think he averaged a game? Attempts.
3?
6.
Oh, attempts? 5.
Attempts. 4.
With Larry Brown?
With 4.
5.
Yeah, 4. He attempted 4.3 a game. Steph Curry attempted in 2017 10.
And that's
10 a game. And we know,
I
the 3-ball.
That's why I up their numbers. I up those guys. Like, when I say Rasheed, if Rasheed was playing today, Rasheed could shoot left-hand threes. If Rasheed was one of the most skilled bigs out there, like, he would shoot 8 to 9 threes. But I still don't think, even with that elevated 3-point, he would have outpaced Kevin fucking Durant. Sorry. Just. Like, Tayshaun Prince might have shot the ball more, but even in his era, he wasn't a scorer. Is he going to outpace Klay Thompson? Is he going to, is Chauncey Billups, who was the leading 3-point shooter in that like time period, is he going to outpace Steph Curry? Even if we up his numbers to 6 or 8, he ain't outpacing Steph, the greatest we've ever seen, versus the second best we've ever seen, versus maybe the third best we've ever seen on the same fucking squad in their prime. Fuck out of here.
Okay, let's talk about the NBA Finals. Welcome to it, 2024. We've got some things to actually address that have come up on our lives. Some things you have said, Channing, some things you have said, Richard. And I want to know if you guys still believe what you said when talking about the Mavericks and the Celtics facing off here. Just as a heads up, Boston comes in at 12-2 through the playoffs so far, which is the fewest for any finalist in terms of having lost just 2 games in the last 7 years. You guys were a part of that. You were 12-1 going into the NBA Finals. The Warriors were 12-0 going into the NBA Finals.
Damn.
They went 16-1, by the way, in 2017. Speaking of that team, they went 16-1.
We beat them. We were the defending champs. We gave them their one loss, and we almost had like 90 points in the first half just to try. Bro.
Okay, so before we dive into the hot takes that you guys had, which were hot.
Dive in it. You're about to.
I
do want to know what you guys will have. We kind of asked JJ this question, and he jumped all around it and all over it. Who or what you will have your eye on going into this series before it even begins? Are you looking at like storylines from past teammates or being a part of different teams? Or are you looking at matchups? What will you have your eye on? What's standing out?
Porzingis's health.
Porzingis's. Is that a word?
Porzingis.
His health, which he is expected to play. Obviously, game 1 has missed the last 10, has not played since the first round, game 5.
So Porzingis is practicing against his players. He's playing Luke Kornet in practice. Luke Kornet is not fucking Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively or PJ Washington. So whatever you're practicing, good job. You're practicing. Good job. You're in shape. You are not in NBA Finals war battle tested shape versus 3 young, aggressive, bouncy human beings. And you're practicing. How do you emulate what Jayson Tatum or what Luka and Kyrie do? Like, how do you practice against that versus your second unit? Like, no offense to Peyton Pritchard, he's not Kyrie Irving. So your scout team, you're like, oh, okay, this play, this is what we're going to do. Yeah, right. And I think for Dallas, I think they're honestly going to just say, if we can get a couple stops, we can win this. Like, I think if they say, we can get a couple stops, we can win this. But getting a couple stops, like limit, I bet you they say, let's shut off Derek White, Drew Holiday. And if Tatum beats us with jumpers, Tatum beats us with jumpers. Keep him off the free throw line. Jaylen Brown, to me, is the biggest up or down. Who's going to guard him? If he can win his matchup versus who PJ Washington might guard him, I think Boston wins. But I think Mavericks, their big men are what I think is the weighing factor.
To your point, when you look at who they played in the first round, they played against the Miami Heat, right? Bam Adebayo, he's a role threat, but he's more of
not a rim threat like that.
Not a rim threat like that. Second round, right? They play against Cleveland. Jared Allen doesn't play. Evan Mobley, I would consider him similar to Bam Adebayo. We're like, yeah. When you look at their team, then you go to the conference finals. When you talk about their bigs, when you're talking about Miles Turner, he's a space, like he can roll to the rim. They get some of that, but these are 2 bigs that their only job is to be in front of that rim to dunk the ball all game long. He was 16 for 16 in the finals. Gafford had a stretch where he made like his first like 20 or made 28 buckets in a row or something, well, like 2 away from the record. Like these guys are going to be at the front of the rim all game long. And so, yes, they have not played against that type of rim pressure with those type of downhill talent, right? They just haven't. I think the one thing about Porzingis, and I would say as long as he progresses game by game, because game 4, game 5, game 6, they still got Al Horford. They still got the deepest roster. They still got all these things. So my thing is like Porzingis can play 18 minutes and space the floor. He doesn't have to post up. He doesn't have to do all these things. He can ease into the NBA Finals. And I know that sounds crazy, but as long as his teammates do their job, they will allow him to ease into it. The minute we start putting pressure on Porzingis, like first game he was 0 for 4. Next game he was 2 for 7. And it's like he's going to get there. But as long as these guys are doing their job, then it's fine. I think the thing a lot of people have been having the conversation about when I said that, I think, the Mavs have the 2 best players in the series. I want to ask you this question, Channing. If the way Kyrie is playing right now, he was on the Celtics, who would be the best player? And I know this is a weird hypothetical because he's already been on the Celtics, but those guys were a lot younger. If he was on the Celtics, who would be the best player? Kyrie, Tatum, Brown, who would be the person leading that squad?
Oh, it'd be Kyrie.
Oh.
It would be Kyrie. It would. It just...
You said that very confidently.
He's the alpha. That's just...
It is the alpha. I think what's crazy is Jaylen Brown is showing I could be an alpha too. There's nothing wrong with having 2 alphas.
They got a lot of tiers of alpha. They got alphas. Like
yeah. They got alpha energy out there. But
a lot of
this is not I could talk about Jaylen Brown and not knock. At this point, I'm not knocking Jayson Tatum. I am acknowledging Jaylen Brown's tiering of how good he's got. So Jayson Tatum is in the MVP conversation, and Jaylen Brown got Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So we need to admit that, yes, Tatum is good. And I'll even take a digress of saying this things about Tatum. Instead, I'm going to talk about Jaylen Brown and say, when you have 2 guys that on any given series can take over, that makes you very dangerous. But if we were to go, who's going to win this matchup? Tatum versus Luka? Most people, unless you're drunk, you're going to say Luka. Right? And then you would go Kyrie versus Jaylen Brown. Right? Okay, now, once you get past those 2, once you get past those 2, now you go Drew Holiday or PJ Washington.
Celtics.
Right? Then you go Derek White versus Derek Jones Jr.
Derek White.
Then you go, Porzingis, who hasn't played in a month, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like by the end of that, and those guys can dominate. Those guys can have a great series. We're not saying that just because the greatness is matched up, that's the way it's going to be equal. My only thing is the fact that it didn't matter where Luka is, he's the best player on the floor. You put Kyrie on the Celtics, there's a conversation about who is the best player on this team. And that just means that at any point in time, Kyrie, Luka will be the 2 best players. I think they are the 2 biggest alphas that are looking for the moment, trying to attack the moment, and there's not a question across the league that those 2 can handle the moment. There are questions throughout the Boston Celtics locker room. So walking into that series, those are the 2 most battle-tested, prepared individuals, in my opinion.
Who's Kyrie guarding?
Probably Derek White.
Peyton Pritchard.
No, he's coming off the bench.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Who is Kyrie starting on defensively? Starting.
I don't mind him against Drew. Because I think
this is going to sound crazy. I'd put him on Jayson Tatum and just don't let him shoot jumpers. Just hear me out. You put him on Jayson Tatum, right? So you start Luka on Drew Holiday, right? Because they're not running the offense to that. Luka on Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Derek Jones Jr. on Jaylen Brown. Kyrie on Tatum. PJ Washington on, I don't know, who starts at the 4 for them? Who am I missing?
Well, it's Horford. They Derek White, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown technically would be the 4, and then Al Horford would be the 5.
Yeah, so PJ Washington on Jaylen Brown, and then Derek Lively on Al Horford or
KP.
Porzingis.
Okay,
yeah, KP.
This is where we need to go, Channing.
Okay.
With your hot take. You took Derek Lively over Kristaps Porzingis, and I need you to address that.
Are y'all drunk?
I need you to address that.
We're talking about regular season. I haven't seen the dude in a month. I don't even know if he still likes basketball. I'm going with the dude who was 16 for 16 in the Western Conference Finals. You see his impact. You see his impact on the game of basketball. 16 for 16, and you do one thing? Do you know how hard that is?
KP gets injured, you're questioning his love for basketball?
I'm totally joking. I'm not. KP's great.
I was about to say, come on.
I think Kristaps Porzingis is great, but I have to go with what I've seen. I have not seen him. I don't know. I would change my attitude if all of a sudden Porzingis is posting up Kyrie like he was doing in the regular season and balling. He has been hurt. So all of a sudden I'm supposed to say the hurt guy is better than the guy where Luka, who won Western Conference Finals, tried to give him his award to say how important you are to the team. If Derek Lively wins his matchup, the Dallas Mavericks win the championship. That's a fact. That is a fact. If Luka can get downhill and throw lobs and get easy buckets, Dallas can set up their defense. If Derek Lively can play defense on Anthony Edwards at the end of a game and can switch 1 through 5, then Dallas is going to win. If he can play defense and not get hurt, then you have 2 shot blockers in the game. Oh, and guess what? When he plays his 24, 30 minutes, there's another dude who's 7 foot who comes in, who's a rim threat, who's a shot blocker. So you know what Dallas has to do? Limit their threes to less than 35, make them go to the rack, don't spray, and play 2-on-2. That's it. I mean, it sounds easy, but obviously Boston's amazing. And if you want me to argue for Boston, I could do that too, but I'm taking Lively. If we had to redo the draft, I might take Lively third.
This is my thing, and Channing, I'm backing you up. When the information changes, so will my opinion.
Thank you.
Simple as that. When the information of I haven't seen this play, I've watched this kid be dominant. Let's go back to Derek Lively for a second. I did his first game of the year against Wemby. Number 1 pick, he literally came out, dominated the first half. I'm not saying he outplayed Wemby, but he balled in the first half. He was coming off the bench. He played so well in his very first half that they started him in the second half. That's nice. Who Derek Lively has been since the moment he showed up into this league. Oh, Victor, I'm going at him. I'm finishing. I'm dunking. I'm blocking shots. I'm bringing energy. And they were like, me and JJ were both saying, man, they need to put this dude, they need to start him. They started him in the second half, and the rest of it's been history. So I just look at Derek Lively and say, hey, the information that I have now on the 2 players, I'm going to say this kid. Now, if Porzingis comes out in his first game and goes, 7 for 13 and has 9 rebounds, then, okay. Hey, young fella, you got a bit of a problem on your hands. But until then, we got to give it to it. Can I ask you this? The Jaylen Brown Porzingis screen is PJ Washington and Derek Lively. Easy switch. And guess what? Is Porzingis going to post up Derek Jones Jr. after guarding Anthony Edwards? That's the type of player that Porzingis isn't good with, is strong 3-man defenders who can get underneath him, right? But it's what I'm saying is Dallas has seen what Boston's style. They've seen that style, right? They've seen it with the Sun, all right? They've seen it with these teams, right? They've seen it. But I don't know if Boston, like Richard said, has seen this style of basketball yet. They have not seen, no one's seen it. What team has 52 alley-oops? No one. The next team that's under is 10. And they had Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, and they're going home. Okay. So imagine this team has 50. That you asked me something, but you didn't ask me anything. Okay, this is my question to you, right? Now follow me here with this. Stay with me, people, right? And just give you a little bit. When Giannis won the championship, what did we say? Oh, he's the best player in the world. Yep. He's been knocking on the door, been dominant, first team all MVP, one best player in the world. When Jokic won his champion, he's the best player in the world, right? Luka wins a championship. We're going to be like, oh, it's his turn. It's his turn. Like right now, he has dominated and played better than anybody in the league. He took down the team that took down the defending champs. He is either the best player in the world or one of. What will we say if the Boston Celtics win the championship about Jayson Tatum?
About time.
Do you see how like everybody else that has won a championship in that space with their best player and dominant? Jayson Tatum's been All NBA, what, 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row, I believe. So it's like first team All NBA, finally wins a championship. Even if he dominates the finals and wins 4-2, will he be considered the best player in the world? Because we've done that with everybody else.
I would argue that Jayson Tatum would say the same thing, though.
Jayson Tatum would say he's on the best team, which
he'd say
Boston.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's about time.
I would argue that Jayson Tatum would say that. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about how Jayson Tatum is viewed. I'm not talking about how Jayson
viewed.
is viewed. I'm talking about how he's viewed.
No.
All of those other guys, the minute they got over that hump, we put them in a space of like, it is your crown now. You are the best player. If Jayson Tatum wins this championship, even if he has a very good NBA Finals, is the Finals MVP, average 28, and they win and they're the best team, we will not consider Jayson Tatum the best player in the world. Same reason why he doesn't get MVP votes.
Does it matter that all three of those guys that you asked us before asking this question about Jayson Tatum had never been to the finals? And Jayson Tatum has? He's been in the finals 2 of the last 3 seasons. They've been in the conference finals, some crazy 6 out of the last 8 years.
Yeah. Well,
does that play a part in that narrative?
But we gave Joel Embiid an MVP with 0 postseason success, and he earned it.
That's regular season, though.
But I'm saying I'm just saying the MVPs and stuff. I don't think it's held against somebody. LeBron was probably the best player in the world, him and Kobe, like when he lost in the finals early on, and then he lost in the finals in Miami that first year, right? He was probably the best player in the world. You know, him and Kobe were kind of hovering right there, in my opinion. So it's like, I'm just saying that most of the time when you've been knocking on the door and you finally get over, they'll say that about Luka. They've said it about Giannis. They've said it about Jokic. They won't say that about Jayson Tatum. And that just gives an idea of how he's viewed, which is unfair in my opinion.
That's also indicative of how good that fucking team is.
I was going to say, but his entire career has been him and Jaylen Brown.
I know, but they have also, give Boston credit. Give Boston credit. They saw Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown as being cornerstones. So you know what they did? They constantly surrounded them with all-star caliber players. They have not ever not played with at least 2 all-star caliber players on their team. They've had the most consistency when it comes to coaching. They've had the most consistency when it comes to bringing in types of players that will promote them and help their growth. They are as much of a reaction to their work as they are the environment. So give Boston credit. They said, these are our guys. More teams should do exactly what Boston did. You got a stud like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You don't break them up. I thought they should have a long time ago, and I'm wrong. You keep them together. You say you better fucking work it out. What do you need? You need more veteran leadership? Here comes Al Horford. Oh, you need some guys that come off the bench. You need defenders. Got it. You need playmakers. Got Derek White. Got Drew Holiday. Like, what else do you need?
Okay. Let me give the other rebuttal. You're talking about how loaded their teams are, right?
Yeah.
Was there conversation about Steph being the best player in the world on his loaded team? Was there conversation about Kevin Durant being the best player in the world on loaded? Now, they didn't win the MVPs, and that was something, but it was like when Kevin Durant won those 2, they were like, oh, he's the best player in the world. And the conversation was best player in the world, but you joined the best team. So that's where the fighting all started. But there was conversation about Steph, unanimous MVP. They had, again, we didn't know that their roster was loaded because it went on to show that. But having Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, all of these guys became a loaded roster. And there was still conversation about Steph and Kevin Durant being the best players in the world, along with LeBron, because they were winning, even though their teams were loaded. That's the only thing I'm saying is that Jayson Tatum can win with a loaded roster. And even when Kawhi won the championship, they were like, dude, he went on that epic run and people were like, is he the best player in the world? And Jayson Tatum is not brought into that conversation. And I can say that even when he wins, people will not, they'll be like, oh, well, there's Luka, LeBron's still out there. You see with Jokic, Embiid, people start listing all of these names, but that has not been done with prior champions that have been all NBA level for multiple years that got over the hump.
The last time the finals MVP wasn't the best player on the team was Andre Iguodala.
Shout out. Bear down.
Bear down. But here's a real question, and I'm not saying I believe this. So this is a question.
I believe this. Let me preface.
Let me preface. Is the conversation Jayson Tatum isn't even the best guy on his team right now?
No.
Okay, I'm asking a question.
Wait, what are you saying, Richard?
No, I think Jayson Tatum's
if
best.
Jaylen Brown wins, if they
you
win,
can be the best player on your team and not play the best. I'm saying, like, look, Kyrie was
Jaylen Brown wins the Finals MVP and Boston wins, we need to have a real discussion of like maybe Jaylen Brown got better than Jayson Tatum.
Now we know what I'm
That's
just.
What if? I'm not saying
win the conference finals, right?
What?
MVP. He did just win the conference finals MVP, right?
No, but understand this. When Kawhi won the MVP, Kawhi won the MVP with the Spurs, right? He wasn't the best player on that team.
Yeah, he was. I'm arguing.
Okay. I was like, no, that's not a knock on him. I'm just saying you can see how
he was about to take on a whole new role.
Someone can have an outstanding series and still vault themselves into like, hey, he played the best. Right? Look, he hits the three to get him into overtime after Jayson Tatum struggled. Then Jayson Tatum goes and scores 8 points in the overtime. Right? There is a symbiotic thing that they have going. One of them picks up the other one. Right? Understand, even with Jordan, when he wasn't there, Scottie Pippen still took him to the conference finals. Scottie Pippen might have been a top 5 player in the world. Right? So that's what I'm saying. Same with Shaq and Kobe. Shaq might have been the best player on those 3 championship teams, but Kobe still averaged 28 one year. In the
Kofi? Kofi?
He said Kobe. You got.
Open your ears, bro.
Okay, so Rich, let me ask you guys this question. You have Luka as the best player in this series.
Yeah, not even close.
Luka, best player.
Yeah.
So you have Kyrie at number 2.
I'm saying that I have Kyrie the way he's playing and at the level that he's playing. Jayson Tatum, rebounds, points, defense, all stuff. I'm saying Kyrie is playing some of the best basketball of his career. And that to me puts him that he's playing better than Jayson Tatum by a smidge margin. Doesn't mean it's like all season long, Jayson Tatum has been a better player. In the postseason, Kyrie has played better, in my opinion, than Tatum.
His situation has
situation.
How does the narrative change, if it hasn't already, of course, about Kyrie if he were to win an NBA championship in this current situation?
Hey, put stock in rain sticks and white sage because motherfuckers gonna be doing that shit left and right. Hey, when he bring the drum, get ready.
We had this conversation on our most recent live, which, by the way, we are going to do lives here in the NBA Finals starting Thursday with Game 1. So if you haven't already subscribed to Road Trippin's YouTube page, that's where you'll find us post-game after every single Finals game. Having said that, we had that on our last live. The conversation, Channing, you were working handles that night, of Kyrie and his place in NBA history in terms of he wasn't a top 75 player. What would another championship for Kyrie do? I just think there's a lot of
hard conversations here. Listen, you know what I thought Kyrie as, and I use this analogy probably too much as a joke.
I get nervous when you say this?
Yep. You ever seen that movie, A League of Their Own?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Do you remember when Dottie and Kit were on the same team and they won a bunch? And Kit said, you know what? I'm always underneath you, right? And she went off to her own team. And then Kit ended up winning her own thing and getting her own, like really being the face of the league and things like that. You remember that part? Remember at the end, she had her own shrine? That to me is Kyrie. Like we always thought Kyrie is like the little brother to LeBron back in the day. Kyrie went on his path of discovering himself and he found the right place. And we're seeing what we saw in practice every single day, but as a mature father who really knows himself, who's sacrificed so much and given so much of the game. So to answer your question, would he turn into be top 75? I might have to mess around and say he might be one of the top 5 best guards ever. You don't think so?
Talented wise, yes. But I'm saying like you still have to be if you're going to put him in a top 5 category, that means most of those guys were the best player on a championship team, right? Yeah, that's no,
because then you put Luka in there and he's a guard.
You're talking about Isaiah, or you mean like in the league or ever?
Well, I said ever. That's top five is way too much.
I got you. I got you. I got you.
Magic. You would say Magic.
No, wait. Let's slow down. Let's slow down.
No, go ahead.
Kyrie is but
Top 10.
But again, we have to let's just cover it up. I think Kyrie's basketball as a top 5 player has never been doubted. We knew if someone would have told us watching Kyrie play at 24 that he had future MVPs, we would be like, oh yeah, I could see this dude being MVP. Now, was there a maturity that needed to take place, like from him understanding basketball and how to lead and do? Yes, he talked about it himself when he was with the Boston Celtics. Kyrie Irving, I think the reason why this championship is important is because when you want to prove that you can do it in a different space, I think LeBron's championship in Cleveland is his most important. I think Steph's championship without Kevin Durant
in 22
was his most important of proving his like who he is and where he stands. And I think if Kyrie were to win a championship, I think this would be the most important championship. The first one is special, the big shot, yes, but proving that like I am a championship player wherever I go. LeBron has proven that. Steph has proven that with different teams. I think there are certain guys that when they win a championship, not necessarily it changes the narrative. It just proves, oh, I can win without LeBron. I can go to the finals without LeBron. And I'm not saying that that was the narrative because, again, that team in Boston went to the conference finals, and they were talented. They could have done more. This is his team in Brooklyn. They were a toe away from a conference finals, an ankle away. So he's always been a winner, but this just solidifies. And if he's able to finish it off, and don't act like Kyrie couldn't win a finals MVP.
I was just going to say, is there a world where Kyrie is the finals MVP? And 2, I don't think the narrative is a secret that he wanted to try and do it without LeBron, right?
Yeah, well, you wanted to do it in your career. You wanted to do it in your career. Like Bron, you are no longer on a team. He still wants to win championships. So now he's got to prove that he can do it without that team or with not in Cleveland. So that's not, I don't think like a big, like without LeBron. I think it's more of, I want to prove that I can win a championship. Still.
Kyrie would need to absolutely cook Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown. You would need to cook all 3 of them to get finals MVP.
I think he saw Drew in Milwaukee. He's seen Drew before.
Well, I'm saying this is a little different now.
What do you mean?
I'm saying
he would need to win his matchup. He would need to they would need to double team him. If he can get a double team in the NBA Finals, when you have Drew, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, those kind of guys on the floor, you might be NBA Finals.
Yeah. I think there's four players that could win NBA Finals.
That's it.
I think there is. I think over a 6-game series, unless someone had some crazy performance, there's 4 people that legitimately could feel safe putting your money on. The leaders would be Jayson Tatum and Luka. The next 2 would be Kyrie, in my opinion, and Jaylen Brown 4th.
Channing said if Derek Lively wins his matchup, the Dallas Mavericks are going to win an NBA championship. Who's your X factor, Rich? I still can't believe that is your take, Channing. I love it.
What's the truth?
I love it.
Do you think Al Horford's going to win that matchup versus Lively?
Well, he can. He can shoot the shit out of threes.
So wait a second. Al Horford is a better shooter and taller than Karl Anthony Towns?
No. What I'm saying is that
I'm used to seeing that.
No, but I'm saying but Al Horford is more of like the silent assassin, where it's like you look up and he's hit 3-3. Like, there's a point of attack with Karl Anthony Towns. So all the defense is focused in on him and that group. That's a very different than being an ancillary piece, kind of like PJ Washington. You're not focused on me and I'm just lighting your ass up over here from the corner because y'all got to worry about those 2 monsters. Al Horford's very similar. So you're right. If he dominates his matchup, that's going to be big for Dallas. I still think that this whole thing hinges on Kyrie. I like that. I know it's cliche, but that's just the real answer. We can dissect it and look, but if Kyrie plays elite, it's hard for me to say that Luka would have such a drop off or play so poorly. I think even if Luka is just good and Kyrie plays great, I think they win. I think they win, or it goes 7. If you ask me,
you aren't convinced either way.
I'm not convinced either way. I'll tell you what. Ask me after game one. Like I don't feel the need to predict so we can say, "Oh, I picked this right." It's like I ain't seen him play one game.
If Boston wins, I go, they were supposed to. If Dallas wins, I go, oh, they must have played great. Here's why. But I think that Derek Lively will win his matchup based on his skill set compared to what Boston is used to.
But also Gafford and Lively are the same.
I'm just meaning that center position, the center
position, the two bigs. So let's put them together because I feel like they split. So if Gafford and Lively win their matchup,
correct.
That's a two-headed monster also.
Right. And like when you come off the bench with Luke Cornett, and okay, so Luke, let's talk about the bench. Hardy, you have obviously
Josh
Gafford,
Green, Tim Hardaway,
Josh Green,
kind of out of the rotation.
But we'll just say 3.5 guys versus Peyton Pritchard, the shooter, and Cornett.
Hauser.
Yep.
Who goes back to the bench? Who goes back? Wait. Hal Horford is now benched.
Oh, yeah, Al Horford.
Al Horford is now benched. That's what I'm saying.
So Al Horford versus Gafford, who do you got?
It depends on how well Al Horford shoots. If Al Horford shoots the ball well, like again, that's what I'm saying. It's like if Al Horford hits 3 threes in the first half,
that's a problem.
That's a problem because that's going to space the floor for everybody else to work. He doesn't have to go for 18. We saw what he did in game 1 of the finals 2 years ago. Like he's still, and you're asking him to do so much less. You're asking him to guard a lot in pick and roll, a lot in space, and you're asking him to stand there and shoot threes.
He better get some new shoes because they are going to go. J Kidd, hey, as soon as he see a matchup problem, he's going to be like, where are you at? Come on over here.
Who do you think has the advantage there? Kidd or Missoula?
Kidd. Jason Kidd.
Why?
Because you got the best player on the floor. So if you have the best player, you have the queen. You have the queen on the chessboard. You have the most moves. You have the most options, especially offensively. I think defensively, Missoula has more in his bag for like what they're. I don't think that they have more options of how they can play based off their depth and versatility. Where I feel like because they have 5 guys that defend, right? You have 5 like elite defenders on the court at one point in time. That's tough. Dallas doesn't have as many elite defenders. They don't. They have a few guys, and then Luka and Kyrie are playing inspired defense for them.
Yeah.
They're playing like they're doing what they're supposed to. That's different than having 5 elite defenders that we can switch some, we can show some, we can hedge some, we can do this, we can play some zone when we have a big you have more options. But offensively, he's got more. He's got one
great series. It's going to be a fucking great series. And there's so many like what ifs, right? Meaning, what if this guy hits 3 threes? Like that's how close it is. We're talking about Horford going, if he goes 3 for 3, we're like, yeah, Boston probably gonna win that game. Because now you have to spread out. Now when they drive downhill, they spray for threes. If Boston gets 43s up, they're gonna win a game. If Luka gets Brown or Drew Holiday in foul trouble, Dallas wins the game. Like that's how little of the in between they are.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to discuss?
Do you know why I have no clue? Because I had no idea that Dallas was going to mop up Minnesota the way they did. So I don't know. They look at the great defenders.
I'm 1 for 1, so I will saying, no, but one more time.
You think that they were going to get mopped up the way they did?
No, but after the first game, I said, "Damn, this is a matchup problem."
Yeah,
but they had 1 guy or 2 guys that defensively they needed to help. The minute that you help, Dallas was just like, we're going to exploit that over and over and over again. And now this is creating our rhythm. They're like, oh, you want to put 2 on the ball? They go, swing. Let's give it to the NBA champion, Kyrie. Now I'm going to make a play. Oh, you want to double him? Swing to Luka, goes downhill, alley-oop. Oh, now you want to play us straight up? Oh, Luka's the best scorer in the NBA. Buckets. Oh, you think BJ can't make a corner 3? Here goes 6 of them. DJ Washington, here goes 4. And I'm not a dud on defense either. So that's a problem.
Bye.
Shout out Jared Dudley. Having said that, great episode. You guys are awesome. The NBA finals start on Thursday. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel because we will be doing lives all finals long. Don't forget Rich's shirt, Road Trippin'. Of course, you can get it at homage.com/roadtrippin'. And we did have a viewer asking about shipment to Canada. So we will
Canning will
figure out
personally
how
deliver
that
it.
happens.
Canning will personally deliver it.
Dude, we need us.
Make sure he
You're
has that.
basically
coffee ready.
you're in Portland. You're basically in Canada. Hush.
That's not true.
That is not true.
There's a whole other state above us.
We will work on that with Richard. But for now, it's another edition of Road Trippin'.